talk show where we're kicking it and having fun on inspirational radio. Real talk show, kicking it and having fun. So turn your radio up.
What's up, everybody? It's time for another episode of the TheReuPLive. Where's Bishop at? Bishop got good looking, didn't he?
Bishop, one good leg can't do it.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the TheReuPLive. Got a really special show for y'all tonight. I got my wife on the show with us.
Hey, wifey. Yes, sir. We like that.
Y'all always hear me talking about her, so now y'all get to see her and hear her. And of course, you see Lasagna Witt, the first lady of the Re-Up. And we still trying to figure out what Bishop at. So maybe he might pop in here, maybe he not, but either way, we're gonna pray he all good, he all right.
That's right. So
we got a lot to talk about. This is our 5th week in this topic. Real quick, shout out to Arnisha Giles. Thank you again.
Yeah, she said howdy, y'all. I like her. She said howdy.
And if you're just joining us, right, we've been on this journey. We want to talk. We want to continue to have the conversation about what it looks like to be a modern day Christian, and comparing that to the actual model that we should be following, which is Christ. So, over the last couple of weeks, we've been, talking through the difference between, how the church looks today in certain circles, and then how Christ looked and what examples he gave us, and what we should be striving for. And then last week, we got into the conversation about how we actually can walk more like, there we go. Walk more like Jesus.
There we go.
How we can walk more like Christ. Look, he already.
There we go.
Oh! Being like Christ.
Bishop
calling Deshaun C word.
Wow.
Deshaun.
Wow.
Deshaun.
Who is that?
Listen. I threw it in there. It's a free middle name for you. Take it and use it as you will. Your alias.
I will not.
Deshaun.
But thank you.
When you feeling sassy, this ain't calling this Deshaun. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Shelton. You in the middle of something? I apologize. Don't kill me. Go.
No, I didn't have my
Don't kill me.
My man who does all the introductions. So I was trying to do my best version of it. I already, introduced Lasagna, Carla, and now Bishop is here. How you doing, Bishop?
Hey, the love and support means everything to me. I don't know about y'all, but I couldn't be me without y'all. I'm talking about y'all do what y'all do in a mighty way, and you do it to the glory and the honor of God, and I thank you for it. Come on, somebody.
We like that. Okay.
Come on. Come on.
So I was just trying to catch our audience up on what we've been talking about over the last couple of weeks. And, as always, I like to, before we get into the meat of the conversation, kind of talk about current events, some of the things that are happening that can kind of, be a backdrop to, some of the conversation that we're going to end up having tonight. So
I got an idea. Shelton.
What's that?
Me and you can be the meat, and then Carla and Lasagna could be the potatoes. We'll be the meat and potatoes.
He cannot.
There we go.
Here we go. We've started already.
Hey, meat and potatoes. We in here. Okay. We can't have meat without potatoes. You can't do it, Shelton. They go together. Brother. They go together.
Okay. All right. Y'all heard it. Meat and potatoes. That's what we doing tonight.
Us meat, them potatoes.
That boy.
Oh, help me, Father.
Help him, Father.
Help us.
Please help him.
Help him.
I can't take it no more, y'all. I can't take it. I've been waiting for Tuesday for 2 weeks.
You've been waiting for Tuesday for 2 weeks?
Yeah,
Tuesday came last week.
I know. But this episode, this gonna be the one. This gonna be the episode that put us on the books, because whenever Carla make an appearance, saying they get real special up in here, and I don't mean like
Okay.
Olympics. I mean like
All right.
legendary.
We sat in the green room. He was gonna be messing with us, and he got up here.
I know.
We
He
called it.
called it. She called it.
Woo! Come on, let's do it.
So what's been happening in the news lately, right? The two big news streams, and one news stream actually started getting overshadowed by the other. But one thing that I thought was interesting, and I thought that would come out one day, or that would become a topic of conversation, is that our president in chief has been getting in a feud with his good friend Elon Musk. And Elon Musk, said some things that, I think we're going to get more information about, or we're going to start hearing more about, but like the Epstein things, Epstein files. And then, after that, in LA, we're seeing a lot of, protests happening because of ICE and immigration and things that are happening with that. And on top of that, we sending out the military to do these things. The dirty work, yeah. National Guard. I heard the Marines just got sent. And so, yeah, that's what I'm saying, LaSonia. And I know last week we talked a little bit about how media, helps. How we helps kind of, paint a picture of what's really happening. And if you watch Fox News, you would think LA is getting burnt up. Everything is, falling apart. And then if you watch CNN or some other news broadcasts, then it's just peaceful, protests. And the thing about it is, I think the truth is somewhere there in the middle. But unfortunately, everybody is trying to use it for some type of, political gain or political conversation, and the unfortunate thing about it is that, innocent people are being affected, by some of the things that are actually happening. So, and, again, the last 5 weeks, what we've been talking about, or what I like to talk about, is, as Christians, how do we respond? What are we supposed to do with this information? What are we supposed to do in times of struggles, in times of where the world needs some type of guidance and help and support? What is the church supposed to look like in that matter? Are we supposed to, throw fuel in the fire, get on both sides of the fence and start fighting people and choosing sides, or, what is it really supposed to look like? So, are you guys familiar with all those current stories? Do I need to give any more details?
When we're going to talk about Diddy?
You want to talk about Diddy?
I just, it's been a lot of, testimony that's been real, like, it's just going down and down and down. Like, it went from him, maybe or maybe not getting convicted to him never seeing the light of day at this point. Like, they could stop the trial today and it's a wrap. I don't even see why they're continuing with this. Like, really, at the end of the day, like, it's so done. They're going to end up, lighting a match to him.
Well,
they're going to burn him up.
I mean, one of the things, and I said this, I know we talked about this a while ago, man. I don't know what's going to happen with that, right? The Epstein case has still been going on for a while, right? We don't have any type of resolution, I think, with that. And my gut feeling, my thoughts, right, is there's a lot of people that's involved with Diddy, right? So to your point, if Diddy go down, I think a lot of other people gonna go down with him. And so I don't know if everybody gonna allow that, you know. But again, that's how the world operates. You know,
Yeah.
he's been, you know, all the things that we're looking at that's happening with Diddy right now has been happening for years, right? And it's been a part of the system. It's been a part of people who are well affluent with money and a lot of things. So and it was able to go on as long as it did, as you can see, because of that influence, right? Because police were involved and political figures and, you know, people from the entertainment world, you know, that have some type of influence. But, you know, unfortunately, what we're looking at, or fortunately, what we're looking at is just kind of a microcosm of what's really happening behind a lot of these different things. And the sad part to me is that I don't think Diddy is the biggest fish in this whole little pond of things happening here. You know, I think he's maybe the middle guy, you know. But that's just my thought. But it again, to your point, I think it's important to know where we're at with that, so we know, again, as Christians, how do we affect it? How do we deal with that type of things? We have victims in this situation, so we have women and men that have experienced some type of trauma with that. We have victimizers, right, that have a mindset that's
women and men
that's been twisted or been sick or that maybe they were abused and now they're their abusers. You know what I mean? Like,
there you go.
And so, you know, as a church, you know, again, the whole topic that we've been involved with is, you know, how would Jesus respond to that? How did he respond to similar things? And what does that look like? And does that look like what we do today? You know, for, you know, and specifically in the American church, right? I can't speak for a lot of other countries and, you know, different things like that. I think, you know, sometimes religion and culture, you know, looks a little different in other places. But what I've experienced here in America, that's what I'm the point of view that I'm talking through.
Yeah.
I've been talking a lot, ladies. Potatoes.
Come on, potato. Let's go. Let's
Oh
go.
boy. Oh boy.
Any thoughts on these recent events? How about and then just real quick, a reminder to all of our guests, our listeners, you can definitely chime in through the chat, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on YouTube, join the conversation. We want to hear from you. We want to, you know, answer your questions. We want to hear your comments. You know, let us know if we're on the right track, if we need to, you know, consider some other things. We definitely want to hear from you. So our Nisa Giles says the church should be praying more than ever now. Definitely praying more than ever. You know, to you know, praying for, you know, this world that we live in, praying for the legacy that we're leaving behind. It's a lot of prayer is needed right now. Amy, men in power are showing America what they really look like when they are getting pushback. Yeah. So great segue, Amy. Like, so again, men in power in this system in America. Again, what does that look like for the church? How do we become more like Christ so that we can be more effective in those things? And so there was 5 steps to becoming more like Christ that we introduced last week, right? We got to 3. We got to talk a little bit about 3, but I want to start with that today. But number 1 was renewing your mind daily from the scriptures, Romans 12:2. Where we talked about that we're getting inundated.
Okay. I'm gonna take that. That's acceptable.
With so much social media, so much news, so many, you know, content, you know, related things, music, right? That that is helping that's pushing a narrative, right? And depending on what you're feeding yourself the most, is kind of where you're leaning, or you may lie with certain things. So, as Christians, we talked about praying, we talked about, reading your word, just really getting around content that is going to feed your spirit more so than your flesh. That's going to give you truth, so you can have discernment in situations. If you want to hear the whole, take on that, Lasagna, Dion, myself, we all had a really good, I think, response to that. Definitely go check out the show prior to that. Part 2 or key step 2 was practicing radical humility, right? Being, and that we got that from verse in Philippians 2:5-8. But just humble leadership, right? Not thinking that we know everything, not pretending that we know everything. Being humble, before God, even being humble Christians, right? Because some of us are very self-righteous. We think we know, what God is doing, and we're not spending enough time with him to really, lean in those areas, right? So we talked a little bit about politicians and pastors being caught in scandals and how that looks, and how does humility play out in leadership, right? And so then number 3, we got into love without conditions, right? And that was kind of the last thing that we talked about. And like I said, I think I want to start with that. And then we'll go into 4 and 5, which is obey even when it's hard and produce fruits that last. All right. So loving without conditions, right? So we had started that conversation. We definitely have a lot of things in our culture that as Christians we want to address. Some of the things that I know that are popular for us to talk through. The people in the letter community, right? There's a lot of debates with that. Immigration policy, the LA, riots and ICE and all of that is about that. Race conversations, right? And all of those different things. Those are just examples of things that are revealing how conditional our love has become, right? Even as Christians. And that's what I'm really focusing on. People who say, hey, I'm a follower of Christ. I'm a part of this body of Christ. Why do we think our love is so conditional in that?
Because that's how we love, as human beings, as New Age Christians. We love because of. And, when you talk about us and the difference between us and Christ, he loves in spite of, in spite of what I've done and who I am and what I became, he loved me anyway. Right. But certainly, when you start talking about people every day, they love you because of, and the minute your because changes, then the love is gone. That's why so many marriages break up, is because basically people love until, I love until you make me mad enough to leave you. I love you until you cheat. I love you until, you fall short of my expectations. I love you until you do something, big that I don't like or catastrophic or whatever. And that's, how we love. It's more surface, and it's supposed to be deep. We're supposed to love to our core like God loves us, to his core. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah. Potatoes?
What's going
My mother
on?
did not
Ladies,
name me potatoes.
Listen, we ain't talking about your mama now. We ain't talking about your mama. Don't
or
bring
you,
her up
or
now.
you, or
Okay.
you.
Okay.
I say that with love, meat over there.
That's funny.
I think personally, just for me, I feel like God teaches us how to love ourselves, because that's the well that we pour out of, so I feel like a lot of people that are critical, most times they're really critical on themselves. You know what I mean? So you really can't give anything that you don't have in you. So you got to, if you love yourself well, you know what I mean? And you have patience with yourself, you have forgiveness for yourself. I think that's what, if we understand how God has continued to forgive us, it's easy to pull from that. But a lot of my experience, is coming outside of myself. You know what I mean? So your flesh, if you feeding your flesh daily, you know what I mean? That's what's loud. That's what's always present. You know what I mean? So to be able to do something that's deeper than that, you got to feed that part of you. So you got to feed your spirit more. You know what I mean? So to your point, Shelton, sometimes just unplugging. You said, what are you? What did you say? What are you feeding yourself? On social media? But sometimes it's really unplugging from all of that and having just that quiet time, to be able to hear God, to be able to understand. It's been times, I'm gonna go ahead and tell my own business so you don't tell my business, but it's
Come
been
on.
times that I've been mad with you, and that flesh is
Like telling
high,
my business.
and I didn't say what you did. I didn't say you was at fault, but
Glory.
I
Glory.
I have been upset, and I had to walk away. And I had to get in my quiet place so that I could hear what God was trying to tell me. Most times he ain't telling me about you. He's telling me about me. You know what I mean? So I think mainly our problem is always trying to tell somebody else how to do it better, how to love better. But we really have to, it just still points back to us on how we do it, how we do what we do.
And I think I think that's a real key point. And I like how you tied it back to, what we feed ourselves daily, right? Because I think the issue in the church with loving one another is, and I think we said this last week, right? The most segregated day of the week is probably Sunday, right? And so we're used to being around people who think like us, look like us, act like us, right? And and when we do that, it makes it hard for us to empathize with people who don't look like us, act like us, or where we're not dealing with those problems, right? Because we're quote unquote not an immigrant, for example. We have less empathy sometimes for, when we hear a story about a mother and a child being separated because one of them is considered American or not an immigrant and another is, not thinking, of ourselves. Like if one of our children was ripped away, how would we feel? How would we respond to that? How would we want people to respond to us in those situations? I'm just kind of giving that as an example. And I see that happening in the church. A lot of the things that we're arguing about, that we debate about, is really just based off of not really wanting to take the time and understand someone else's point of view, why they feel that way, why they're dealing with what they're dealing with, and not caring enough for that. And that is not the example that Jesus gave us, right? When he walked on this earth, he cared about the sick. He cared about the children. He cared about, the impoverished. He went to spend time with them. And, we talk about it a lot on this show. We kind of skip past that part on the Bible and we just talk about the cross, right? But it was a whole walking, on this earth where we got to see him interact with people, the very people that we interact with every day, the very people that we are every single day. You know what I mean? And only when we see ourselves in it, right? Only when we see scriptures that benefit us or scriptures that are aligned with what our current truth, do we really have love for it. So it's a very conditional love. It's hey, if you walk with the way I walk with things, then I can roll with you, right? But if you got any other point of view, if you look different, if you move different, whatever, if your issue isn't my issue, then I have less concern for you. And in the church, that's definitely definitely not how we're supposed to operate. That's a worldly trait, basically.
Definitely.
Shout out to I'm gonna use this break, and then Lasagna, I think I'm looking at you. You got some stuff to say. Shout out to Vincent Booker. It's my family up there in New Jersey. Antonio Daniels is on tonight. Gwendolyn Wilson, she's our regular. Amy Daniels.
Hey, sis.
Elaine is waving at us today.
Arnisha, waving.
Arnisha, yes.
Hey, don't forget my mommy-in-law. My mommy-in-law is up here.
You see her?
She texts me.
She gotta put something in the comment. Tell her to put something in the comment.
Hey,
she don't have to. You don't have to,
Dion can
Mama.
talk to her.
That's right.
Dion, tread lightly.
Dion.
You better tread lightly, Dion.
Hey,
I don't play about her.
Chelsea, I ain't got
mama
nothing but
called the
love for
show
your mom.
one time. She called the show one time.
And I don't know.
And that was
I don't
like
know what
6 years
happened.
ago.
I don't even know what happened. I showed her nothing but love. I showed her nothing but love and respect. And respect. With a K.
Okay. That's too funny.
With a K.
Okay.
But
love y'all.
Love you too, Amy.
Mm-hmm.
What's your thoughts with that love comment before we move on?
Oh, you talking to me?
Uh-huh.
Can you? Oh, okay. Yes, loving unconditionally. It is work. And the first work is on the person that is called to love unconditionally, because God loves us in a way that is unconditional, but it's hard to relate to a God you can't see. So you have to spend time in learning his ways, because you can't see God. And just
That's
like
right.
when you interact with people every day that you can see, this is the difference between man and God. God always right, I'm always wrong. It don't matter if we get in an argument, I don't like what he said.
That's
I don't
it.
like what he said. He always
The
right.
end.
I don't care. It's easy for me to have a relationship with God because I always know who's wrong. It's harder to have a relationship with a person because either I could be wrong or they could be wrong or we both could be wrong. So it's more difficult when you got somebody perfect. I already know I'm in the wrong. When God come to me, hey, it ain't no question who's right or wrong. It ain't I humble immediately. With people, you could be right. They could be right. You both could be wrong. But in that unconditional love is where you have to take a seat back and say, okay, God loved me no matter what. So I can love no matter what. And if it is something in there that bugs me, I have to take it to God and say, God, help me work on what is this bothering me? Because it shouldn't affect my love. Even if I can't hang out with you, that don't mean I don't have to love you. I don't have to talk about you behind your back. I don't have to mistreat you. I can still love you even if I can't hang out with you. But I should always have a clean heart and a pure spirit towards a person, whether I'm with them or not. So that's what I think about unconditional love.
We got a smart potato over here.
That's a good one. That's a good spot.
So chat, so definitely our people in our chat, let us know, what do y'all think about love? How can we love more like Christ? The Bible goes as far as to say in John 13 that that they'll know us. They'll know us as his people, right? By how we love, right? So the better we love, our better response to what's happening in this world, that's how people will know who we are. I hate to say it, but and one of my pet peeves, and my wife is on, so she can tell you this, is when politically we put something online, right, and then we say, hey, this is God, right, and I look at people respond to that. And they'll respond. I've seen atheists, respond with Bible scriptures that talk about love, and we're refuting that as a Christian, and we shouldn't, And again, that's not justifying, what these people are doing or what they're saying, but they're taking our own word and saying, hey, this is what you say you stand by, but your actions don't align with that. And that bothers me. That probably bothers me more than watching people out here sin, because I expect the world to sin, right? I expect, people who are living in their flesh and they want to do, like, that's not a surprise to me. It's a surprise to me when people who said they've walked with God in any type of fashion, like Lasagna said, when you realize how much God loves you, and if you're really spending time with him, it becomes a little easier for you to love people in a different way. You have a little bit more grace. You have a little bit more mercy. Like every year, every day that I'm walking with him, I have a little bit more mercy or grace for, people around me or situations. And he gives me plenty of opportunities to practice, right? So to practice that love. So Gwendolyn says, first we have to love them for who they are and not for what we want them to be. Ooh, I like that, Gwendolyn. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And I think it speaks volumes because I can't remember. We went to Florida and we had met a really, really nice couple at the hotel we were staying at. And they were telling us about their children, and they had an older daughter, and she basically, she's attracted to women. And so when the father went to talk to Shelton about it, up to that point, we had dinner, was fine. But when he went to talk to Shelton about the daughter, he got real, real defensive. He got like real, well, I love her. She's my child. And it was the most amazing thing that I had ever seen, because Shelton never even spoke to any of that. He just really embraced the man and embraced, being a parent, you know what I mean? And so when Shelton did that, it broke the wall down. You could see the man's body physically, kind of relax. But it made me sad. Like after we left, we talked about it, and it just kind of made me sad. Like his experience with Christians, like when he mentions what's going on with his child, what was their response? You know what I mean? Like you got to love people where they are. So like, were they throwing the Bible at him, or, what happened in the past that made him so defensive? We hadn't said a word and he was already like tense, but it's one of my favorite moments, to see Shelton do that. I mean, he's good like that anyways, but to see how the man's body relaxed, it was just like, I love you. I love you for how you just being a dad, you loving your daughter like that. You know what I mean? Like without judgment, you know what I mean?
And I think here's the thing with love though, that relationship continues. Right. And so we have more opportunities to walk together, to talk together, and cross. When we put people on a defense, when we just immediately lead with judgment or issues, we shut the door. That's your last time probably having a conversation with them, or them even receiving anything coming from you. And, here's the thing, though, like in my mind, because I lived in my life, right? I know I'm not in any place to judge anyone on where they're at. All I can do is give them the Christ that I've met and share my testimony and share what God is doing in my life, right? And that is more than enough, because I know that once they meet Christ, once they really start having a relationship with him, then he's going to do all the work. Like there's nothing I can really say or do anyway that's going to change their heart about that situation, So as Christians, I think if we really keep that in mind, like my wife said earlier, if we look at ourselves, like most of the time when we want to judge people, there's a mirror that's going to, point back to us and remind us, who we are, and that our only righteousness is because of who he is and our connection to him.
Yep.
So
some of these Bible thumpers, as I'll call them, yeah. It's like they can't go anywhere without saying scripture, without doing this, without doing that. They don't meet people at the point of their needs. Basically, when they meet them, they trying to see what their problem is so they can throw rocks at them, either, straight or the high arcing rock. You have if you ever used to go outside and throw rocks, some people
Okay.
used to throw the rock straight at you, like they'd zip it at you, boom. But some people would throw it up high so it would come in the arc, just like when they shoot the basketball, it goes in a high arc. You with me? And so those ones that throw it at a high arc, it's more the people in the world call it shade. You know what I'm saying? So it's not a direct assault. It's more of a catch this if you can. It's almost like they're trying to throw it over your head or what have you. But people are no fools. You saying what you're saying, and people are catching it, whether you zipping it or you lofting it, and I think it hurts worse when people loft it at you, because sometimes you can't react immediately. You go home and you're like, wait a minute, this sucker threw a rock at me. Wait a minute, hold on, and you keep rolling that around in your mind, and you keep thinking about it, and you're like, oh, you get madder and madder. So next time you meet somebody like that, and soon as you think they're gonna come the same way, you ready for them and you on guard. And that's what happens. That's why people tense up without you saying nothing. Soon as you kind of carry yourself as a Christian, or you say praise the Lord or anything, like, oh yeah, I got you, I see what kind of person you are, and they ready for you, they're on the defense. But to Shelton, his good deed, he said, hey, listen, I'm not here for none of that. I'm not here for your daughter, me and you talking. You know what I'm saying? What I'm gonna throw shade on your daughter for? Me and you talking, brother. And that's how we have to meet people where they at.
I have to be honest, Dion. You never cease to amaze me. Like, I never have thought of a rock analogy to explain love. This is the first time.
That's why Bishop one good leg. That's some bootleg preaching.
Why gotta be bootleg? That's called bloody. That's called bloody
for us. What?
Come on.
So Tony said, what comes first? Love or respect?
Mm-hmm.
My answer to that question is always going to be love. I think true love garners respect. In my experience, the more you love the way Christ did, like Jesus didn't walk around like, hey, worship me. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Or he's the Messiah. He's God in body. So he could have kind of walked around with a title, could have walked around like demanding, respect, but his actions and how he treated people, how he served people, garnered respect. And so in my experience, and you guys, I don't know if y'all have the same answer I have, but I think love lends to true respect. Like, I see people all the time who have titles, but they're not respected, right? Nobody really respects them, or they'll listen to them because they might have a title, but other than that, it's not, it's not true respect. Yeah. Do y'all agree, disagree? What comes first? Love or respect?
I think respect. You can't.
I think so.
You can hardly love somebody you don't respect. I mean, that just and I me myself personally, I'm afraid of people that don't respect me, because it's like they'll do anything. If you don't respect me, respect is so big to me that if you don't respect me on a basic level, I don't trust you and I don't want to be around you, because ain't no telling what you'll do. You hear me?
I hear you. Yeah.
Go ahead, potatoes.
Vincent said love always. And so Dion, I thought this was interesting, and I was waiting for the ladies to respond. I think a lot of guys would say respect first initially. And and I think it's because by nature we lend more to respect. Recently had this conversation, or seen this conversation a lot, about submission. Men, I saw this post on Facebook, and it was about it was a man posting that women should be submissive, and if you have a woman, or you considering marrying a woman and she's not submissive, then she's not marriage material, right? And I made a response, because what I've learned is the first part of that scripture before you get to submission is, husbands, love your wife as Christ loved the church, right? And so so it starts with the love. And in my experience, the more I learn to love my wife the way Christ loved the church, right? And that's a learning thing. That's something I have to learn to do every day. I have to learn to be more patient. I have to learn to be more kind. I have to learn, long suffering. I have to learn, not to hold on. I have to love the way he does. The more I do that, correct me if I'm wrong, babe, then, the submission part becomes a little bit easier, I think, because you're dealing with a godly man or a man that is seeking God's face. I won't speak for my wife, but am I on track?
You're on track. I gave you a lot of practice. So I feel like, based on what the man said, I didn't qualify for marriage, but
Here we are.
That's another story. I agree with that. And I think that, I'm no scholar, so I can't even say what the scripture is saying there, but, God knew something about us. If he instructed it, he knew something about us, that we would struggle in that way. So for us as wives to respect our husband in this day and time, you have a lot of independent women, a lot of women, that can stand toe to toe with men and jobs and, all these different things. So, we have to bow down, and it sounds like a bad thing to say, to a woman, like, oh, you got to bow down. But to me, there's a beauty in having a husband, as a covering. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a beauty that I don't have to do everything and, go mow the lawn and take out the trash. Like it's just a beautiful balance just in our marriage. As far as with raising our children, I get to be a mother. So I get to kiss the boo-boos, I get to hug, I get to coddle and tell him he's the greatest and, all this good stuff. And you do all the hard stuff. You get to discipline and be like, look, you better get your act together, And so it's just a beautiful balance. And when you respect each other and what each other brings to the table, it really creates a better harmony. When I'm trying to do what you do, it don't come off that way. You know what I mean? Not saying that I don't step in your shoes sometimes because I fuss at the kids too. But, I do believe that submission, it sounds like a bad word, but it really, when it's done well, when you're in the confine of a good relationship, you with a good man, it doesn't mean you're going to make all the right decisions as my husband, but it does mean that, hey, I can trust you. What do you think, Shelton? And you say, let's do this, babe. The bottom may fall out. It may not turn out well, but it's in the agreement that we went into it together. You know what I'm saying? So I had to learn all of that and still learning, but it's in the partnership. So submission don't seem like a cuss word to me at this part of our marriage,
Yeah. So, great question, Antonio. It's, for me, I think love brings out, different things. It brings out respect. I think it's the foundation. I think it's the foundation for healing, true love. And I think it's an answer for a lot of the things that we struggle with in society today. I think if we operated more in a pure, unconditional agape type love, especially as a church, we would see things, we would do things, and we would respond to things a little differently. So now the next topic, and I know LaSonya, you've been waiting on this because we're going to talk about obey even when it's hard.
She know a lot about this.
That's
obey
funny.
even when it's hard. And the scripture reference that we'll use with this is Jesus went out. This is in Luke 22. I'm going to start at verse 39, but it's 42 that I want to get to. Jesus went out as usual to the Mount of Olives, and his disciples followed him. On reaching the place, he said to them, "Pray that you will not fall into temptation." He withdrew about a stone's throw beyond them, knelt down and prayed. And then verse 42 says, "Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me. yet not my will, but yours be done. This was Jesus praying before he went to the cross, right? And showing us that sometimes it's hard to be obedient, right? But still being obedient anyway. So, and a couple of, bullet points with this one. Christians picking policies to protect their comfort over obedience to God's command to care for the least of these. A lot of different things. Like when God is asking us to do something, we're choosing our comfort over what he's asking us to do. What we know or we think we know compared to what God is calling us to do. And I'm definitely been guilty of that.
Yeah, raise your hand, babe.
I did. But what are y'all thoughts on that?
Obedience when it's hard, definitely. I'm going to tell you that I've lived long enough to see enough life to know enough to know that obedience, if you're disobedient, everything you do in life, you're going to live in it. This is what I mean. You get a lifestyle of disobedience. It's the little things. It's the little foxes that spoil the vine. Some people think it's the big things that they do that get them in trouble. It's not. It's every day choosing to disobey or to obey God. If you get a lifestyle of obedience, you'll live in what you build. You're building something every day. And 20 years from now, when you look back, whatever you're living in today, you built that 10, 20 years ago. However your life is today, good, bad, or in between. When you're obedient to God, he is looking out for your future and even for people after you're dead and gone. Obedience will give you a lifestyle to do the things that even when you may not even know why God is telling you to do it. And I can remember a lady where God was telling me, it was a strong, she was like a civil rights leader, very strong willed lady. And I love this lady. And I remember she died suddenly. And, God was walking me through her life. He said, let me tell you something. He said, she didn't die suddenly. That took 30 years for her to die. He said, this is what I mean. I told her, fix it with your kids, fix this, do that, do that. After you build up so much disobedience, you have openings and stuff can happen to you. People not taught that, so they don't know that. You think you can get up and do whatever you want to do, and then your life goes on as planned. And that's not the truth. It's the little things year after year, you're disobedient. It can cut your life short. You don't know it's cutting your life short. You just doing whatever you want to do, but you don't know. Every act of disobedience is leaving your spirit open to the enemy to target you. And we have an adversary always seeking whom he may devour. When God asks, what you doing, say, walking to and fro on the earth, seeking whom I may devour. Your obedience puts hedges of protections around you. Disobedience open you up. So when he come in with a launch and an assault against your family, against your health, against your life, you haven't built up enough obedient places. He got all the access and all the openings because you do whatever you want to do. And then boom, and then there you go. People don't understand that obedience can save your life. It can save your family. It can put protections in the spirit for people you don't even have met or even going to meet. But we're not taught how important, and you don't have to understand why God tell you to do it. He don't owe you no explanation. Right. He said, you the just shall live by faith. If I tell you to do it because I'm God enough to know why you need to do it, even if I don't explain it to you. So I have learned and lived long enough to see how disobedience turn out. And I'm living long enough to see how obedience gonna turn out. You understand? I got enough examples of how it don't turn out good. Baby, I got 10, 20, I got plenty of them. But I'm gonna keep on living and see how disobedience do turn out.
I think that's so key. We're having this show right now because of an act of obedience. I went to school for engineering. I didn't grow up saying, hey, I want to do media, I want to be on a YouTube channel or anything like that. But this platform that we're building was one of those weird things that in my mind, it was like, God, you want to do what? You want you giving me a passion or inspiration to do what? And so obedience, and it's so funny, right? In the church, it's easy for us to see disobedience in terms of sin, right? So a person going out here, they're drinking too much, they're alcoholic, they on drugs, they, doing some type of outward sin. We see the disobedience in that so easily, but the disobedience of just, like you said, Lasagna, doing something that God asked you to do, and you think it's just an innocent thing. He told you to give, some money to this homeless man on the street or whatever, or he told you to go talk to this person, or and you decide that you're going to do something different than what the Spirit is leading you to do. That's disobedience. That's the same thing as if you were out here, on some drugs or doing something, but we don't hear it like that. We don't look at it. Anytime we're doing something outside of God's will for our life, that's sin, but I don't remember it being taught like that to me when I was growing up, or me understanding it that way until now, and to your point, I am trying to live the second half of my life in more of God says it, I do it. And I think if I can be transparent, my issue now is doing it exactly when he says do it, because I think timing matters. Because again, God, you have to understand, God sees all. He knows the future. He knows like, hey, this door is open now. Walk through this door now. And the more we procrastinate, the more we decide to, let me hold off on this, that disobedience, that's still an act of disobedience that lingers, and that creates, opportunities for the enemy to seep in and delay our purpose, delay the things that we have, that God has in store for us.
Yes, sir.
Arnisha says obedience requires sacrifice and trusting God at a not knowing level. Our natural instincts is to avoid discomfort, but if we align ourselves in God's will, there will be blessings and peace. I like that. I like that a lot. Any more thoughts on obedience?
Oh God, yes. The only reason I met you and Carla is because of an act of obedience. One of your friends was at church. Never met him in my life. Didn't know. God said, go up to that man in that suit and recite this poem. I'm like, we getting out of church. I'm just gonna walk up to some random man in a suit and say a poem. I heard it. I went up to that random man with a suit and said the poem. He said, hey, me and my friend putting on the show Friday. Do that same poem at the show on Friday night. Like literally, that happened to me.
Do the same poem.
He said, do that same thing you just did. Oh man, you're gonna be in the show. That's literally how I met y'all all them years ago. It's like one act of obedience. What if I didn't do it? That's how I met Sheldon, Carla. I mean, it was just one thing he said. He was just standing there and said, go up to him, say this poem. And I'm like, this man don't know me. He gonna think I'm crazy. I'd never met, so I just did it. I mean, I had all these thoughts in my head, but at the end of the day, I did what he said. And I just went up to him, and that I got introduced to you and Carla that Friday. That what you did right there. Do that for me on Friday. So it's like you don't know. Yeah, you don't know in an act of obedience. It's a blessing. Sometimes it's life-saving. Sometimes it's a blessing. Sometimes it advances your life, advance your career, advance your ministry. You have no idea why God will tell you to do certain things. And sometimes you just need to do it and not even question it or even worry about it. It doesn't mean I didn't have thoughts. Disobedience if I didn't do it. Now, you can have all kinds of thoughts in your head. It don't matter about what you're thinking. It just matters if you're going to do it or not. Because, God done told me a lot of stuff that I done thought, like, scratch your head in the corner. But I'd be like, okay, let's see what it do. So I went there. Good thing I did. Here we are on this radio show. If I didn't, I'd never met y'all.
Absolutely.
She talking what she know, because in our personal time of talking on the phone, I'll call Sonya, pray and just chit chat about stuff. And she'll tell me, it don't matter what I say. She'll always say in the conversation, do what God is telling you to do. I never leave the conversation without her saying it. So she's telling the God honest truth of what she lives by and what she shares, with people close to her to do. And I won't say it's always been easy, but just doing, when I get off the phone with her, I just do it. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it, and it just has just brought like so much. In the beginning, it is the discomfort, but it's brought so much joy to my life, because it could be something as simple as, you better not say that. Don't say that. And it might be this discomfort to not say it, because you just really want to let it rip, but just in not doing it, the outcome turns out better than I could have imagined. So she telling the truth. It's hard. I'm not going to say it's not hard, but it is something we should just every day practice and chase after, to just be obedient to whatever God is saying.
Yeah.
I was scrolling in the cesspool about probably a week ago.
The cesspool.
Here we go.
Social media.
Okay.
And I caught a word that really blessed me so, and it was just, simple things, but that are so profound. The guy said, "This week, I want you to move faster than your fear." He said, "This week, I want you, when you hear it, to move so fast that your fear doesn't have time to catch up with you to stop you from doing it." And I think sometimes we're, Shelton and myself and other people, we're so reserved, and we pause long enough for our field to grab us and take hold of us sometimes and keep us from doing what we need to do. And sometimes if we would just move, as soon as God said, so many blessings can open up, not only for us, but whoever he's telling us to interact with and whatever situation he's trying to put us in. If we would move on instinct, as soon as he says it, we would be in a much better position. But because we don't, or we hesitate, or we wait, or whatever the case may be, fear creeps in, and it stifles us to the point where we can't move now. You know what I mean? And now we're stuck in this position, unable to move forward or back. We're frozen and petrified in that spot. And God wants to move us forward, into what he has for us. And so, I challenge all of us, as believers under the sound of my voice, to move when God says to move, and don't let your fear catch up to you. Leave that fear in the dust.
I love it. A couple of comments I want to highlight and read too. Tony says, what's behind disobedience in the spirit? Resentment, anger, pride, and rebellion. It's funny, Tony. One of the things that I start to realize, and the reason why I think this is important, especially after what Dion said, resentment, anger, pride, rebellion, all of that to me is birthed through fear, right? And the last point that we're going to talk about tonight is, what kind of fruit are you bearing, right? So if you can know if you're really following a model of Christ based off of the fruit that you're bearing, based off of the people that you're meeting, right? The lives that you are impacting or touching. Are you just creating content, or are you, influencing people in a way to where, after they meet you, they get to see a little bit of who God is, a little of his light, right? In how you're walking. Are you shining a light, or are you letting that light shine through you? Or are you, a dark place that, like I said earlier, that's rejecting people or putting people, on a defense? What does your fruit look like, right? One of the things, and me and my wife have this in common, I think, but we when we're commenting on some people's stuff on social media, one of our favorite questions to ask them is like, how many people, met God through this comment, right? Or through this.
Y'all be on there trolling. Y'all the ones on there throwing them lofty rocks.
The lofty rocks.
Yeah,
no,
y'all.
For me, it's a real question though sometimes, because when it's gospel, when it's just trying to tear someone down, how did they get closer to God because of this content, right? I have to ask myself that question. Like, at the end of this show, what did we say? What did we do that's going to bear any type of fruit for someone one day to listen to what we're saying, or the people that's listening to us now, that they're gonna have or grow in their relationship or understanding of who God is. You know, did we get in the way of that, or did we help nurture that? Right. The scripture that comes to mind for that is John 15:5-8. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. If you do not remain in me, you are like a branch that is thrown away and withers. Such branches are picked up and thrown into the fire and burned. If you remain in me and my words remain in you, ask whatever you wish, and it will be done for you. This is to my Father's glory, that you bear much fruit, showing yourself to be my disciples, right? So we're supposed to be fruit inspectors, and we're supposed to be people who bear fruit. Like our life, our words, the moments that we have with people should matter, right? It should be planting seeds. It should be watering seeds. It should be an extension of who God is, right? If we're really, really walking with him. Otherwise, our fruit looks a lot different. It looks a lot like what we might be seeing sometimes in the world right now.
That's right.
Thoughts on that?
That's real.
We're gonna continue. Look like we're gonna be continuing this again. It's 8 o'clock. We about to get this.
Hey, we're coming back one more again with this now. If y'all don't get it this time, I don't know what to tell you.
Arnisha said, watch out. Bishop is dropping nuggets.
Dropping the nuggets. Oh, glory. Arnisha, he get in there sometimes. He gets on in that thing.
Junior nuggets.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I mean that's the last point, but we definitely can I think pick up the show from that next week and move into some more topics, because I think we're on to something here. And again, our challenge, my challenge, the whole purpose of this series was to challenge us as a church to think outside of what we normally, I think, experience, or sometimes what we've been taught, and just really, I've been on this journey of just really trying to look and see, how does Jesus respond to the different things? How did he walk with this? Like everything that we're coming across, he has some example of how he dealt with it. We even saw him get angry, right, and flip some tables, and and but are we getting angry for the same reasons that he got angry, for different things? And then how are we responding to that, and how are we dealing with that type of thing? So just want to ask the question, and again, I'm not going to say I'm perfect at this, but this is what, this is the bar, right? And every day, like we talked a couple of shows again, the more time we spend with him, the more time we learn about him, the more he reveals in us what he wants us to do, right? And how he wants us to do it, right? So any final words, any final thoughts?
I often wonder, when Jesus got angry and he turned over them tables in the temple, if somebody had ran up and pushed him, would he have thrown them hands?
Oh my God.
And what that would have looked like, what I'm saying? Like, would he have been like super fast to the point where the person couldn't retaliate, or would he have did it slow and real hard, like hit him so hard that he flew? Or what I'm saying? What would have been behind those punches had Jesus thrown them? I just wonder, just from my own personal knowledge, my own self personal, like, what I, think would have happened. Because I just wish somebody would have ran up and been like, get up out of here. Don't be turning over tables. And he would have been like, bam, 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 bam. Ooh, ooh, Jesus. That's where who Jesus would have came from. Ooh, Jesus. You hit him so hard. Ooh. I'm just saying.
No, he got other ways to get our attention.
Oh yeah.
Real quick, before we get off, my wife is up here, and we actually, it's so funny because I wasn't planning on talking about marriage type stuff, but Dion brought it up, and then we started talking about submission and stuff. Next week, next Friday, I believe that's the 20th. Is that next Friday or the Friday after?
It is, sir. Yes, sir. You on target.
Okay.
Keep on doing it. Come on.
We're doing an event called Men versus Women. If you're in the DFW area, definitely come check us out. We're going to be in the Carrollton area again. And we're going to talk about intimacy, right? We're going to talk about, how men, how women see intimacy, how we see it differently, how we see it the same, and, how we can kind of get on the same page. And as always, Lasagna's going to, host a trivia game show and help lighten the mood a little bit. But, we're going to have some real talk, some real discussion, hear some real testimony, some real questions about intimacy. So we got a lot to talk about there.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Get ready. Get ready.
Oh, no. Thank y'all for letting me be a guest.
Oh, you were good.
You are part of the show. What are you talking about?
No,
That's right. Come on.
You want us. You remember when you producer? Now you in here.
Right.
Yeah, there you go.
She asked me last week like I was going to tell her no. Like,
right. Like what?
The conversation, the show went so good. I just wanted to be a part of it. I just wanted to join in.
Come back some more.
Wait, Sonya, wait.
Listen.
Come on back some more.
Come back next week. It's really gonna get ignorant. I'm telling you. Watch.
Oh no.
Watch.
What's going on next week?
Watch.
Sonya,
watch. Fool. Next week. What happened? Watch.
Little talk show.